Did we do it? Have I fixed it? We're so back. Oh my God. I can't even explain to you. I've had to reset everything on the settings of my laptop to sort this out. Oh my gosh. Owen, if Owens doesn't work, we're finished. Owen, please speak to me and I can hear you.
Hold on. Hello?
Yeah, I can.
Perfect.
Wow, we're back. We're so back. Chat, we're back. Right. Should we just pretend nothing happened for that?
What happened?
Exactly. Right. Let's start from this. Let's bring the mood down a bit. Pascal Gross, ladies and gentlemen, has left. Joe, don't even play with that one. Pascal Gross has left Brighton. He's gone to Borussia Dortmund, and in the meantime, it seems though we've been tried to be taken down by the higher ups to try and stop us from getting this out so quickly because no one else has done it. Owen, how do you feel initially about the whole Pascal situation?
I mean, sad is the obvious sort of emotion. Yeah, you can't hear me because I've only just started talking, guys. Come on, calm down. Sadness is obviously sort of the obvious emotion. I mean, we kind of knew this was coming, or sort of, we knew it was a real possibility that he would go, as we spoke a little bit about yesterday. Oh God.
Is it been? I can't tell if they're being serious. I don't think they are. No, I don't think they are. No, they can't. They can't hear you. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
These bunch of trolls.
Yeah, you're being trolled. Owen. It's fine. It's fine. Just continue. Continue.
Okay. Yeah, we knew this was like a possibility. It's a huge void, like on
Yeah.
and off the pitch in terms of leadership. We've lost a lot of big characters in a short space of time, and it's going to be interesting to see how that void gets filled, whether that's sort of internally players stepping up into leadership roles, the younger ones. That feels like that could be a conscious decision by the club, because if you're a young player and you've got a leadership role, you're probably less likely to want to move away.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the pitch, like, it's going to be very difficult to like replace him, whether that's just with one player or sort of in a Moneyball style in the aggregate of just bringing in multiple chance creators, players who can cover a lot of ground to sort of replicate him in some way. Of course, like, the tactical system is going to be very different compared to De Zerbi. Well, not very different, but it's certainly different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is sadness. But dare I say, also a little bit of, I don't know, excitement's not the right word, but a bit of optimism.
I get what you're saying in optimism. I'll get on to sort of replacing Pascal after we've sort of given him his due sort of, tribute, I suppose, because Pascal Gross, we've spoken about him so many times, haven't we? In so many different ways of how great he's been. I think, when you cast your mind back to when we first brought in Pascal Gross, pretty unknown. I mean, realistically, no one really knew who he was. £3 million signing from Germany. Didn't expect too much, did we? Really, it was the first season in the Premier League, and he got Player of the Season that year. He was by far sort of our best player. You could tell the quality difference in comparison to what we had in the Championship, and that obvious goal against Manchester United that everyone remembers. But I think he had so many moments like that Owen, in that first season of the Premier League in particular, we had so many moments where we sort of relied on them individuals to get us points because we weren't that good, and we had to rely on people like Pascal Gross to get us a point or two if we could.
Yeah, you really have to say, like, if we didn't have Pascal Gross, there's a good chance we aren't where we are today, even just from back then, like sort of 2017 to 2020, because he did like keep us up almost. Sort of that back core with Duncan Duffy and then Pascal Gross are pretty like the main three. I suppose Glenn Murray scoring a lot as well. But yeah, his chance creation was incredible. I think that's the only thing that Brighton fans knew about him was, he got like 90 plus chances created for a relegated team. Because we also got Marcus Suttner, didn't we, in the same summer?
Well, this is the point. This is what I'm saying. So the chances created from back then, like, it became a bit of a, everyone used that same thing of how many chances he created was similar to Bruno Fernandes and whoever. But I think Pascal's contributions for not just the chances created, but sort of how instrumental he was, even in build up and even in, as I say, in the first couple of years, we were pretty poor. The only way we were going to score was from probably a corner, maybe a counter attack. of course, Pascal wasn't going to keep up with the pace of the likes of Izquierdo and Solly March. But I think in terms of the individual moments, even fast forwarding, to a couple of years ago, like the Chelsea moment, like the first goal of the season moment against, was it West Brom? I think he got the first ever goal for us. The first goal to get us into Europe, sort of thing. Those little moments, the individual pieces that he sort of stitched together over them years is second to none, I would say, in terms of Brighton history.
He certainly needs a statue or a banner, or he needs something that's like permanent at the ground to sort of signify his legacy at this football club. Because as you said, there's so many moments. The one that sticks out to me personally is Man United at home in our first season up with his header. I think it was that sort of essentially just kept us up. That's sort of one of the nights that really sticks out to me personally. As you say, first goal in the Premier League era, countless contributions in the Premier League. Sort of known as the Man United killer almost. Whenever he played Man United,
that club, didn't he?
He'd have them on the leash.
Yeah, that Dutch Maldini said Pascal created 508 chances in his time with us. That's an insane stat. I mean, we're talking about company of the likes of Fernandes, the likes of De Bruyne, the likes of Salah, Heung-min Son. These are players that are associated as being icons of the Premier League. Like the real pinnacle of the Premier League in the last 10 years, you would associate to being them names. Whereas when you associate Pascal Gross, probably outside of the Brighton bubble, you probably would say a good player at Brighton who was underrated. You wouldn't go much further than that or even get close to linking him to names like I've just said.
Yeah, and that is purely because he was at Brighton and he didn't do this at a quote unquote bigger club. Like, you see Brighton fans rave at him all the time. Of course we do, but outside of that, it doesn't feel like anyone knows him. It's just oh yeah, he's an underrated player in the media. Like, great. Is that all you've got to say about someone who's a club legend, a Premier League sort of, probably one of the best players outside of the proverbial big six? And all you can say about him is, oh, he was underrated.
Yeah, it's true. You underrated has become an easy way out of saying I forgot to really talk about him at the time. And I think time will be kind to Pascal. I've seen things like that. Time's kind to certain players, and in the future they're gonna be remembered for something that they were never associated to in the moment. I think Pascal's going to be one of those outside of Brighton. People are going to look back on him, maybe bring out some comps like they do with the sort of streets won't forget players, and people will go back to Pascal Gross as sort of the icon of that era. Hopefully, anyway. But I feel like time will be kind to him.
I hope so. I think the problem is he's not really like flashy, so to speak. He hasn't got the Dimitri Payet.
Do you mean the Gross turns, mate? We're gonna miss them.
He's got his turn, but he hasn't got the Payet flair. He hasn't really got I mean, he's got the Gross turn, but besides that, there isn't really like a signature thing that stands out with sort of your average Premier League fan, in my opinion. But yeah, his legacy here is all that really matters. I don't really care what a Chelsea fan or a Tottenham fan thinks about Pascal.
Yeah, no, it's very true. To get I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here because I know we're a bit more pushed for time now because we've managed to lose about 15 minutes. But in terms of when you think about Pascal Gross, and I'll ask the chat the same question. When you think about Pascal Gross, sort of a top 3 moments, to try and narrow down all of the big things that he's done. We're talking even the minimal things that he's done, like the Southampton goal, for example. People forget about that. And that was the one that sent us to Europe pretty much. But over the last 7 years, there's been so many that, you got the obvious in the Manchester United goal. But what sticks out to you about Pascal in the last 7 years?
You really have put me on the spot. I mean, the Man United goal is probably number 1 for me. The one that sort of kept us in the Premier League. Because that was such a significant night in our history, and we don't even touch. I don't even think we're close to Europe if we didn't stay up in that first or second season. I think we probably go back to the Championship and then sort of have to restart our process again. Mike said his goal against Chelsea is certainly up there.
Yeah.
What did he say after? It was like it's over, something like that, or it's finished.
Finished, yeah. The sort of cold celebration that everyone associated him to.
That's
Someone find a photo of that on Twitter and put a link in because that was just so good. I need to pin that. But yeah, that one's got to be up there.
Number 3 is probably the goal against West Brom, our first goal in the Premier League era.
Yeah.
That's the day that really sticks out because, we'd had a bit of a tricky start to the season. I know we played some tough teams, but it felt so good to get that first win and first goals.
There you
Yeah,
go.
Mike,
That's
that's
what
a
I like
great
to
tweet.
see, Mike. That's great. I'm gonna retweet that in a bit. Just gonna put the cold emoji. He's just ice cold, Pascal Gross. I mean, even when you need him the most. I mean, these aren't just little moments. These are huge moments. This is club history moments that we're talking about. First Premier League goal, the goal to keep us up against Manchester United, countless goals against the Big Six, practically owning Manchester United in that. Goals to confirm Europe, inspiring a comeback in Marseille. These these are crazy. Inspiring to come back in Marseille, for example. I think someone else mentioned in the chat above saying that they were there. You know, we're talking about a game in Marseille. I mean, think about it for a minute. We're Brighton fans. We're talking about a game in Marseille where he inspired a comeback for. This is the same Pascal Gross that we signed for £3 million that is pretty unknown. This isn't just a normal rise of a footballer. This is someone that really, really is an icon that can't be stressed enough in terms of his significance to us. It's crazy. Yeah, statue outside the fans. I mean, I don't feel like we'll get a statue. I feel like the club's just not going to do statues. I don't know about you,
Statue's
Owen,
very
but
risky.
I feel
Very
like
risky.
statues would have happened at some point, and but I think maybe like some sort of name out there somewhere. Like someone's got to be named after something, and I feel like Pascal, like to Tony Bloom, etc. They've got to have some sort of signifier, something like that has to be there. But for you, Owen, like for example, the Marseille moments, and for example, the goals to get us to Europe. I mean, to go from in only 6 years, to go from being the first ever goal scorer in the Premier League to inspiring comebacks in Marseille. That's a crazy rise.
Yeah, it is. And he's sort of, I don't know, I feel like he's added to his game as time has gone on. He sort of fell in love with the dirty work of sort of just covering so much ground. He would not stop moving throughout the game, filling in at right back and actually doing a good job there.
Mm.
Um, Even left back at times. I know that was only very limited minutes, but he
Still did it. I mean, he played on the wing, if I remember rightly, in the sort of second season, third season. I think he
that was
played right wing,
possible.
he
Yeah,
played right back. Yeah, he played left back, he's played midfield, he's played sort of second striker. I'd say he's nearly covered the whole pitch, and in doing so, he's done very well. I think people almost thought Pascal was finished, didn't they? I think I actually said Pascal was finished under Potter, or was it under sort of late Houghton when he was played as sort of like a holding midfielder? And it wasn't him. We almost sacrificed the main thing, which is Pascal Gross personified, and that is chance creation and giving him sort of that creative outlet. And we didn't give him that for a season. We sort of played him deep, and it
yeah.
just ruined him.
I remember because it was like around Christmas time. We'd started quite well in the second season with Houghton. I think we were sort of around mid-table, and then he switched
Yeah,
to from a 4-4-1-1
I think
to
we
a
were up to
4-3-3.
eighth in by like the November, I think, and then we sort of just managed to fall down.
He changed his system and went more defensive, and then yeah,
Mm.
slept us into a relegation battle. Which, tragedies aside, we should have got relegated. To be
Yeah,
completely honest,
yeah,
we
it's a
didn't
horrible thing to
deserve to
say,
stay
but
in
it's
the
true.
Prem that season.
No, we were, yeah. It was only because Cardiff were somehow worse than us we didn't get relegated. But yeah, I think Pascal's just been everything every single time we mention a moment is crazy. And as you say, the over the course of that time, how much Brighton's changed in every year, right? And Dunk's got to take the same sort of credit because the difference in each manager is huge, right? We're talking about a Houghton team that would be very defensive, sit back pretty much for 60 minutes of a game and try and counter attack when we could. But then it was Potter who played so diversive, so differently. You'd almost have to cover multiple positions, and at times would put him probably under it a little bit because Pascal was never blessed with pace. So we'd notice that a little bit more with Potter when we didn't have maybe as good a quality players around him. And then it was De Zerbi. It was pretty much 3 shots of espresso on top of it. And he still kept up with that side of the game as well and adding more goals to his game when De Zerbi first came in. Obviously, we'll never see him under Hertzler now, which is a shame. But, in those 3 managers, I mean, that's a crazy change, a crazy amount of transition that one player's got to do, but then still have the sort of footballing IQ to be able to not only keep up with, but being a significant figure in each one of them.
I think credit has to go to the club as well.
Yeah.
this rapid rise and keeping players, instead of falling into the trap of we're in Europe now, we probably need to replace like everyone. Sort of, they've known who to build around, when to build around them, and to get off slightly off topic, knowing when to sell players who perhaps might have had a good year, and now it's evident they won't fit into our next evolution of trying to battle at the top of the Prem. Pascal's been a critical part of all three sort of phases of Brighton in the Premier League, the sort of counter-attacking style under Houghton, the try not to fall asleep possession football with Potter, and then
Yeah.
the first De Zerbi year, which is sort of football heaven, and then the second year, which is a bit, I don't know, it's a bit depressing to look back on, I think, especially the
Yeah.
second half of that year.
I
But
agree. I
Pascal's there
agree.
for all of it.
I agree. But then even like say the end of last season, if you look back on those big moments, in fact, you know what? Don't even look on big moments. Look on goals. Just look on Brighton goals for the last 6 months, or if you really wanted to go for the last 6 years. And more often than not, you're going to see a Pascal Gross assist. I think it was something like 50 something assists. 50. Someone can correct me in the chat because someone put a tweet on about it. 50 odd assists in 7 years. Bear in mind the sort of team he was playing with in that time at the beginning as well. Think how high that number could have been if he was at like a Man City or even a Brighton nowadays. Back then, 52, yeah, potentially it was that. That's an obscene amount of assists considering the sort of football that we had to play him with for a large period at that time.
Absolutely. I was just trying to look on the Premier League app to see, but they've moved where their stats are, which is annoying.
Yeah, 32 goals as well. Someone said norms.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that averages
mad.
about 5 a season, 6 a season.
Yeah, for someone
Um,
that played holding midfield for one of them, it's not bad going, huh?
it's really not. It's going to be. I mean, it's nice to have the memories, but yeah, this is definitely an end of an era for Brighton. I'm sure
Yeah.
Pascal would look at it as an end of an era as he sort of fades into the sunset of his, seeing out the rest of his football career at Dortmund, which there's far worse places to
Oh
see out
god, yeah.
your years.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, you
sure he
look
has.
at Dortmund's probably one of the best sort of destinations to go to as well in terms of the football world. I mean, if you're gonna finish anywhere, let it be at this Signal Iduna Park. I mean, it's such an impressive ground, such an impressive fan base. It'd be really good for him to do well there. And I think I read it somewhere that he's a Dortmund fan, if I'm right in saying, or he's a
Yeah,
Dortmund fan when he was younger.
yeah,
Um,
childhood fan.
there you go. So it's even better for him, really, isn't it? I mean, I'm definitely going to be looking out for Dortmund next season. I suppose you say it's an end of an era, Owen. It's like, we've now not got Lallana, Gross, De Zerbi, and his team. We've sort of changed now, haven't we? We're moving on, I suppose. How do you move on from Pascal Gross? Do you think it's the right time? Do you feel like now is the right time to, we've had this Potter, we've had this De Zerbi time. De Zerbi was more of a one that came in, unexpectedly, per se. But do you reckon now that it's time to it's the new Brighton and none of that matters? Or do you think there's still going to be elements of that in the new Brighton next season? Or should I say this season now?
I mean, we spoke at length about Pascal's legacy, his big moments, everything he's done for this football club. I think he's earned the right to say when he wants to go and the club to honour that. And I'm glad we have honoured that because
Mm,
although it does hurt us a little bit, it's just a sign of the respect we've got for him that, okay, you want to move on, not a problem. As long as we get a fair sort of price for you, um, you know, go and see your days out where you want to see them. It would have left a little bit of a sour taste if, Caicedo sort of, clicks his fingers and goes, but then we keep sort of Pascal against his wishes.
mm,
So I'm
yeah.
glad we have sort of respected him in that way and let him go when he wanted to go. As for how the new Brighton looks, I mean, it is exciting, and it will be interesting to see who steps up because there is a little bit of a void in leadership with
Mm.
Pascal, Lallana,
I
De
wanted to
Zerbi.
mention this to you. I was going to say the leadership thing is big now. Even Gilmore going to an extent is losing a sort of highly influential player if you're playing Football Manager. So now you're sort of, I say it's the next generation, isn't it? Who's the next? And this applies to chat as well. Like, who do you see as the the next influential players. We obviously haven't seen the likes of Mats Wiefer yet, who could be Van Hecke. Yeah, is a really good shout from Mike. There's going to be a lot of potential players that could be, looking at this as a really good opportunity. And to move on like that, that's what you sort of have to do. I mean, is there anyone that comes to mind for you that particularly look at being most influential next season?
João Pedro. He saved De Zerbi's job borderline. I don't think
That's true.
if we went out in European group stage, I do think that second half of the season he's in very, very hot water. Yeah, he carried us in Europe. He proved time and time again the lights aren't too bright for him. When everyone else looks defeated, João Pedro pops up with something, and he just leads by example. And I really do think the team sort of rallied around that at times, especially in Europe. Even when De Zerbi didn't know, he didn't even know who João Pedro was. As for other leaders, I said to someone yesterday, I think Carlos Baleba captain would be quite fun. Just to see how that turned out.
I mean, he'd have half the team watching TikToks as character building.
I was going to say the pre-game analysis stuff would have to be a Subway Surfers video,
yeah,
a rug cleaning video, GTA parkour. But as for other leaders, I don't know about Van Hecke. His personality, I don't know, he just seems a bit unserious to me.
Yeah, I don't know. He gives me the sort of he's got the passion, definitely. Welbeck is a really good shout, actually. I think Welbeck's a great leader.
I think he already is one though.
Yeah, and he's also
Especially
just a
forwards.
great guy. You know what I mean? He just gives that. If you want to have someone to put your arm around you, I feel like Danny Welbeck is that guy at Brighton. I feel like if you're gonna look up to anyone now, where Lallana maybe took the praise for, I actually think that Welbeck had a not bigger impact, because I could never say that as I wasn't there, I wasn't a player. But from the outside looking in, it always felt like Welbeck was just the quieter one. Didn't need all the praise of being the fathersome figure, but I feel like he sort of quietly went about it and almost looked like that to a lot of players, particularly in a time where we had likes of Evan Ferguson breaking through, and even João Pedro to an extent with his age.
Yeah, I mean Fergie, it's probably like 2 years ago, credited Welbeck for a lot of his development and his breakthrough into the Premier League. So I do think, especially amongst the forwards, I mean, he's got incredible pedigree. He's played for England, played many years at Man United and Arsenal, and we only got him really because he couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
So in terms of his quality of player, we shouldn't have been able to get him at the time. I suppose his injury history was the only reason we could get him at that moment.
I found it funny actually at that time, because Watford fans told me that he was an absolute waste of time. Couldn't understand why we'd bring him in. It's quite funny really how I feel like he almost got a really bad reputation for being a meme at Arsenal, and it was quite dampening to his career, because obviously now at Brighton we know how good he is as a quality wise. He's been unbelievable, scored some unbelievable goals. He doesn't score normal goals either, does he? He scores sort of goals that I don't feel like many of our other players probably would have been able to in the last 4 years since we've had him for. But yeah, in terms of leadership quality, I totally agree. João Pedro is a really good shout, a nice shout actually. I'm interested to see how he does, because he almost had that role at Watford, didn't he? I think he was captain at Watford when we signed him, or at least he was partially captain at times. I can't remember if he was fully captain. But absolutely carried Watford. We have a bit of a thing of taking Watford's players now, but he carried them there, and it's going to be interesting to see next season. Do you feel like we could maybe be looking at bringing in maybe more experienced players? I remember it was a talk at the beginning of the summer that's gone a little bit quieter now. But with these sort of outgoings, do you see any incomings now to be not just replacing the leadership quality, but also 25 goals that Pascal Gross can bring us each season?
I was going to say, Andy Naylor did report we'll be bringing in an experienced player, which we haven't seen yet. Whether that's a case of the club had names and them names aren't available anymore, or
James Rodriguez.
that would be great for nostalgia reasons, but I don't know about actual.
Yeah, I completely get you. As long as I see one recreation of that Colombia goal, I really couldn't care less.
I hear that for sure. But yeah, so it sounds like the club are at least looking for experience to come in. Fabian doesn't really seem like the firm leader type that De Zerbi was, if that makes sense. He's described himself as the friendly authority.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got sort of that ruthless, critical side to him as well. That's all
That's
good
what I'm
managers
excited to
do.
see actually from Fabio is to see that other side to him because he does give me nice guy vibes. And don't get wrong, nothing wrong with a good nice guy, but at the time times you need to have the edge, the ruthlessness, the ability to say no and put your foot down. But I'm sure he's got it, but we just haven't seen it yet.
I didn't notice this, but apparently he really has got one of the players during one of the preseason games. Someone said
Really?
to me, I think it was a fire. Like apparently he was
Right.
like really shouting at him. So
Okay,
you know
interesting.
he probably does have that sort of not aggressive, but that
You
side
need
to him.
an element of aggression, because it's passion, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's a football's a very passionate thing. You want to have the aggression to be able to propel your team forward. Fabio Carvalho is a shout from Liverpool. I couldn't see that one personally. I let Owen go. Obviously, O'Reilly's been talked about. I think O'Reilly's more linked with Southampton, to be honest. But there's a couple of names in the hat. I think Gruder's one was obviously we were talking about yesterday, Owen. Um, Again, it's going to be a very expensive signing, but maybe we're in a situation where we need to do that.
Yeah, Carvalho, a good player, but if you don't like Billy Gilmore, you're not really gonna like Carvalho. He's sort of another one who's a smaller build.
Mm,
He's probably a little bit better than Gilmore, sort of out of possession. I mean, they're two different players. Cavalli's more advanced. He had some really good moments at Hull online when I was watching. But I don't know, that would be a little bit underwhelming for me if he was
yeah.
the Gross replacement. Gruder, as you say, top talent. Marshall raves about him so much, and it's easy to see why when you're watching him. Yeah, it is us being a little bit greedy in that aspect, but he would be a superb signing if we can pull it off.
Mm.
As for Matt O'Reilly, does it matter that Southampton want him? Respectfully, with
No,
Brighton,
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. I think I don't know. I don't know enough about him to truly say that I want him. If you know what I mean. There's always that as well. And I feel like when I'm trying to replace Gross, I'm thinking high end. And what we are now, I feel like we should always go for the best we can.
I think Matt O'Reilly fits that description well. I think it'd be really good if we got him.
Do you?
Chloe said would have gone for Smith Rowe. That's bold. What do you think about Smith Rowe?
I probably wouldn't have done maybe a couple of years ago, but only because of his injury record. He wasn't actually that good at Huddersfield, which is always quite funny. Um, I think it was at Huddersfield he went to loan to.
It was. I
Um,
don't remember him doing anything there though.
no, he wasn't very good, which is always really weird. I remember when he broke into Arsenal during the sort of, was it 2020 era when it was unpopular to like Arteta, and now I've gone completely the other way around. And I don't like Arteta because he just winds me up. But I think Smith Rowe, yeah, I probably wouldn't take. O'Reilly's world class. That's a big claim. I don't know enough. I'm physically blind to O'Reilly, and I'm happy to be proven wrong. I think in terms of players that I feel like when you're identifying players, Owen's your guy. When it comes to players here, I'll happily talk about them.
Yeah, I wouldn't say O'Reilly's world class, but that's not to sort of criticise him. But world class is such a high standard that yeah, you have to be like a top 5 player in the world in your position to be world class. Maybe even like top 3, and he's certainly not that. Um, he'd be very good for us, but world class is a
Mm.
huge stretch. As for Smith Rowe, I'm very glad we didn't go for that because £34 million for a player who can't be relied on for availability. Um,
He's been injured a
yeah,
lot,
he
like
has,
a
and
lot.
not to be disrespectful, but if you look at him, he looks like he's put on some timber. That's not necessarily his fault, but it does put me off signing him. If you can't stay fit and you're not in the best physical condition, £34 million is a hell of a lot of money to be gambling on that.
For sure.
Even as talented technically as he is, I am glad we stayed away from that.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of current availability, there's not exactly a great deal, but I don't think that probably will matter too much. I think I don't know. I think it's a case of wait and see for now because there's no real links. It feels wrong to just start going. The final one's Seema. I think Seema will go. Personally, I'll let you follow on that one.
He got hooked after like 20 minutes the other day, didn't he?
Yeah.
Whereas Adsett obviously just seen enough because he wasn't doing anything.
I didn't
He was
actually see anything from Seema.
he,
I
st-
felt
he
kind of
was
bad because I was like, I wanted to back him, but I think, yeah, maybe we could be past that point.
I
Hijack
was
Marco
keeping
Royce, Mike King said. I mean, Marco Royce would have been a dream sign. Imagine that for a swap. You have our legend, we'll have yours. But I think, where's he going, by the way, Owen?
MLS, I think, but I
Oh,
was
is
keeping
he?
an eye
That's
on
underwhelming.
Seema during that second game, and he was literally just walking around. I was like, mate, you're playing for Brighton, you're trying to prove to stay, and you're walking around, sort of not pressing, having no intensity.
Hmm.
And yeah, obviously Hertzer would have seen the same thing and hooked him for Marco
Yeah.
Mahoney. So
Well, that's it. So I think when you're looking at players that are going to try and stay in that team, I think as we said yesterday, Sarmiento, Ayari, etc. They were making a case for it. I think, yeah. And unfortunately, you look at Seema, he just wasn't. I mean, there's still time, but I can't see it now. If I'm honest with you, with Seema, I think it's probably game over with him. Unfortunately. Before we wrap up, Owen, is there anything else you want to say?
I mean, respectfully, hopefully Pascal, you do fail your medical. Hopefully there's a dodgy hamstring or something that doesn't keep you out for long, but makes Dortmund not want to sign you.
Well, listen, I think with
Um,
Pascal, I'm in that camp of now. I want him to do well. I want him to just go there and be as world class as he can be, and create as many goals as he can, and just be that icon now. I want him to do that, even if it's for 1 year. Just prove it at a big club. Dortmund are a big club. They're Champions League finalists this season. I want to see that so that we don't look crazy for saying it for so long.
yeah, no, if and when he does go, I obviously will wish him the absolute best. But
Oh, of course.
I don't know. I suppose the only other thing I've got to say is please Brighton sign Ferdi Kadioglu. I know this is a Pascal
he'll
stream.
he'll cover the distance of Pascal's gone. To be fair, I mean, for sure. I mean, I think it was 8 positions, 9 positions. I read the other day, practically 11 to be honest. As I said, the only thing we need to see is him in goal, which I wouldn't put past us, as I've seen dunk there twice. But yeah, we'll see. Oh, and the way he pronounced Mark Omani's name irks me. Did I say that right? Did I say Omani right? I think it's Omani. No.
Yeah, I'm terrible with pronunciations, but
I
wait,
got
say it
it.
again, Ryan.
Omani. No.
Omani.
Omani.
Okay, fair.
There you go.
I'll
You're
try and
sorted.
remember that.
Omani's a future star. Look, he looks like Ferguson, to be fair, in terms of his stature, but actually, him overall, he's not anywhere near him. He's very different, way more on the ball. It could be interesting to see if he gets a decent loan next season, or if he sticks around. We'll see. But yeah, Owen, top man, thank you for joining me.
It's been a pleasure as always.
For sure, Pascal. End of an era.
Yeah, it
Ah, we're
is a
so
shame.
bang at the same time. End of an era. It's
Pascal,
from
if you're watching this, buddy, good luck at Dortmund. Thank you for everything. And yeah.
Thank you for absolutely everything, Pascal. Been an absolute icon, hero, legend. I hopefully we'll see him again. Hopefully he's back for something going on. There's got to be a role for him because I think he could be. He's got all the marks of being a top coach. I think Lallana said it as well. He's an absolute icon, and he'll go down as a legend of a generation. Pascal Gross. But yeah, thank you for joining us, chat. We'll see you soon. I'm sure as soon as we hang up this call, as always, something else will happen. He has to come by. Yeah, he has to say goodbye at United. That'd be great. Just to go in and score a goal at halftime, just to add on his goals for Manchester United. But yeah, Owen, once again, thank you, and we'll see you all again soon. Cheers.